It made me an angel.
Bendy and the Ink Machine's third chapter really introduced some interesting takeaways, from a multitude of new characters to possibly a new subplot. We also find out the studio is much larger than we could have ever imagined, and that things only get darker the more we traverse it. We'll be jumping into spoiler land, of course, so be warned before proceeding. There's a ton of things I want to talk about in this chapter, but first we need to set the stage. When we start the chapter, we wake up in a safe space with Boris nearby. After prepping some soup for him, we depart into darkness and make our way through the studio, executing various tasks. Eventually, we encounter Alice Angel, who appears to be quite more horrifying than I initially imagined. Her face is all warped and distorted, and she claims that you are now a new fly in her endless web. Soon after, you are presented with a choice. You can take the demon route or the angel route. Each one yields a different ending picture upon finishing the chapter. Regardless of the path you take, you'll ultimately come across an elevator that will take you down to meet Alice. You see her in person once again as she talks about how she is trying to restore herself. Alice has you run a multitude of errands for her, and honestly this part was a tad annoying because it was just a super elongated fetch quest that just felt tedious. You had to locate gears, destroy bendy cutouts, balance ink levels, and extract ink from swollen searchers. After all these tasks are done, you have a quick fight and then are sent to the basement for the last task, which involves collecting inky hearts inside of a maze. The projectionist lurks nearby, and if he sees you, he will kill you. After finding the hearts and return to Alice, you are told you can leave this place. However, you are quickly betrayed once you try to do so. This chapter really introduced a lot of interesting plot points for us to talk about. We have Henry's role in the game, Alice Angel, a random Tommy gun that can be found, the projectionist, and so much more. Henry becomes more odd with each and every chapter that comes out. Like most protagonists in horror games, he keeps his cool majority of the time, and has no quarrels with fighting the strange inky creatures of this world. It's weird because it is almost like he expected this. The concept of inky demons seems to be normal to him despite seeing his old co-workers corrupted. To make things even more strange, Alice claims that she knows who exactly Henry is. She says that Henry stole something from her, and this is why she will not leave him alive. She states she knows the intentions of why you have returned as well. So now let's swing over to Alice. Alice Angel is apparently Susie according to her dialogue. Through audio recordings in the game, it's apparent that she has become desperate. Alison Pendle seems to have replaced her as the voice actor for Alice Angel, and she feels her career has been ruined. This is why she is so focused on recovering what she has lost. Crazy ink aside, she is driven to reclaim herself and set things right. Joey apparently felt otherwise though, and that is why she was replaced. However, at this point we are uncertain as to why this occurred. Alice does, however, talk about what the ink is actually like. It seems to be a hive mind of souls to some degree. Quote, "It's a buzzing, screaming well of voices, bits of your mind swimming like fish in a bowl." She states that the creatures almost dragged her back to this ink, and it's a place she never wants to return to. Let's swing over to the Tommy gun for a second now too. If you change the inky blob to the ink machine at the start of the level, and then don't die on any of the tasks, you'll be rewarded with the Tommy gun. Now the inclusion of a Tommy gun is interesting because most people's minds jump to the Mafia, the age of Prohibition where bloody turf wars took place, and the Tommy gun became the choice weapon for many mobsters. The line of dialogue that accompanies this weapon is that it used to belong to someone special. Whether someone at the studio was part of a mob, or simply a civilian who owned one, it is unknown. However, Henry can handle the gun without any issues. Soon after the introduction of the Tommy gun, we encounter the projectionist again. The first time we encounter him, we can't interact with him and he soon disappears. But the second time, we were able to fight him. If you have the Tommy gun, the fight is pretty easy. However, this character in particular is pretty interesting. Why is this character enslaved to his projector? Norman Polk was a projectionist at the studio according to his audio recording nearby. Based on what he says in the recording, it is apparent that he knew everything that happened in the studio, since he snuck around so often. It's possible he saw something he shouldn't have seen, and in order to keep the secret, he was converted into this monster. That's obviously just speculation, but the thing is, the projectionist didn't maintain his human nature like Sammy did in the second chapter. He was gone completely, and wandered the inky depths of the studio in darkness. Alice even refers to him as an old friend, but he is someone who is lost completely to the darkness. Last but not least, there's a hidden audio log for Henry that can be found in the studio. It talks about how it's been 2 weeks since Henry started working at the company, and that he has little faith in his boss. He explains that Joey is extremely greedy and a workaholic when it comes to overworking his staff. Henry states he hasn't even seen Linda for a few days now, and this leaves us to believe that Linda could possibly be a significant other. Henry hints at a new character he came up with, but it is uncertain which character this actually is. If he joined the company at the start, it could be possible that this character was Bendy. Overall though, we are left with so many different questions. For one, is Henry really a good guy? We don't know why he left or what Alice is claiming of him. He seems trustworthy, but honestly there's no way to be sure. In addition, I find it super strange that he's comfortable with all the horrors taking place in the studio. It could just be the player's influence over his actions, but it still makes you wonder. I also find it odd that he doesn't appear in the mirror when you're in the bathroom. Obviously that could just be a game design thing, but we can never be too certain. The second question I have is around Joey Drew. Is he Bendy? The way people refer to him as a horror entity and as a boss are very similar. If you have an uncaring boss, you are typically on high alert when he is around. He could be anywhere in the studio and you want to be on your best performance when he is nearby. On top of that, Alice states that bewaring of the ink demon is the one rule that everyone respects down here. Bendy seems to have the ultimate power, but it seems like the role of the studio's boss also shared a similar vision. It makes me wonder if Henry designed Bendy, left the studio, and then Joey Drew transcended life and became Bendy himself through the power of the ink machine. Something that was designed so they could continually work harder and faster. Joey's invitation back to the studio is to show Henry everything he gave up, and possibly to show how big of a fool he was for leaving. That's all speculation, of course. I suppose we'll find out more in Chapter 4. But now that I dumped that in all of you, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the overarching plot behind Bendy and the Ink Machine? Do you have any predictions on how everything will play out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Inky Abyss. Perhaps some of these other videos will tickle your fancy. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.